Hey, what's up? David here with After VideoFX and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I created this set extension using After Effects. And the good thing about this tutorial, it's pretty straightforward. So what we have here is these mountains. We got like a flare here, we got some fog, depth of field, and just various details just to make this authentic and vivid. Yeah, without further ado, let's take a look at what we're going to be creating. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. So I'm just going to show you layer by layer what I did, and hopefully you learned something new from this tutorial. Yeah, that's what it's about, just learning something new. Try to use the techniques that you learned, or you may apply to your own visual effects shots. So yeah, let's get to it. So I've got this footage here. It's pretty straightforward. I'll leave a link for where you could download it. It's just basically what we're seeing here is that we're going over these like trees here, and then we see this amazing sunset view. And what I did was I 3D camera tracked it. So if you have a look here, you see all these camera track points here. Now the problem is that these camera tracking points only saw the data with the trees, and there isn't many out in the distance here. So we can try to find the furthest point, which is probably that guy, but seems it's unlikely. So yeah, so once you've 3D camera tracked it, you start creating some null objects. So you can find like a point for your anchor. So you can go like here, and then you right click and set create null in camera, and that'll create this 3D camera tracker and a null object. And once you've done that, you can just start creating some null objects. So I've got some here. I think I duplicated some and pushed it back in Z space so that we've got a tracking point like in that distance over there. Okay. Now here's the problem. Because these 3D camera trackers positions are way far away, and by far away I mean like if we look at the top view, they're like way up here. Okay, so here's how to fix that problem. Well, I didn't technically fix it because I'll explain why later, but basically you create another null object, which is this guy, and you name it world scale. I don't even know where it is. Well, somewhere in 3D space. And then what you do is make it a 3D layer. You pick whip all the null objects, including the camera tracker, to that null object. And then what you do is go to the top view and you scale down the world. So initially it was 100, and then the cameras were null points were way far ahead, like beyond like what I can go right now. So that's why I scaled it down to 30%. Now initially I did it 5%, and that was way too small. And the reason why is when I created my mist, the camera track the Trapco particular actually used the 3D camera tracker as reference for its 3D position. Now, once that's scaled down, the particles will also scale down. So I'll have these tiny particles that I can't even see. So I had to find that balance. So 30% was ideal. It's not ideal. Actually, it's not ideal because like these points are still far away, but like it was the only balance I could find between keeping my scale, world scale small and my particular particles big. Hopefully that makes sense. I promise you that's as complex as it will get. So yeah, the reason, so I haven't changed the position of the part null objects. I just shrunk down the world. Okay, so the world could be like way big from a top point of view, but like from this point of view, it may look the same. But when you shrink it down, it will look the same from this point of view, but in our top view, it will be a lot smaller. So that's as hard as it will get. Everything else, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so once I've got that done, I started, let's just start with the flare. So I added my flare, and it's up here because I've got my map painting, which is right here. Now, if I go into the map painting, you can see here, I've actually edited this in Photoshop. So let me open up Photoshop and show you guys what I actually did. So here is my layout in Photoshop here. So what I did was I took a still frame. I rendered one frame of the last frame of the footage, and I imported it into Photoshop. And then I used some of the mountains that I downloaded from Pixabay. I'll leave a link for where you could download it. And I just started manipulating those mountains. So I've got some back mountains here. I've got a side mountain. I've got another pair of mountains here. I've got this dominant mountains right in the center. You can see this like little rock in the middle. I'll show you how I got rid of that in After VideoFX. I did a bit of color correction. Well, these were excess layers, but I didn't want to use any of them, but yeah. Okay, so that's what I did pretty much in Photoshop. Pretty straightforward. So if we jump back into After Effects, you can see what I did. So basically, I imported the Photoshop file, and I just turned off this excess and the large smoke. I'll explain that later. Yeah, that's what I did. And then once I did that, I positioned it inside After Effects and made this a 3D layer. And I copied one of this null object's position. So which one is it? Had to be the last one. So I copied that position, copied it, Control C, and then Control V into that position. And then once you've done that, you can just start manipulating it on the X and Y axes however you like until it's positioned right where you want it to be. Basically how you manipulated it in Photoshop. Okay, so that's pretty much how I did that. I might move this up. And then in order to fix like these like little soft seams here, I just used this cheat mist here just to give it like a mist so that we can cover that up as well. Okay, so that's pretty much how I did the map painting for the mountains here. So yeah, just fiddle around with it. I think the reason why there was like this huge gap underneath was because I left this layer on. That's why. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Okay. All right, so let's look at my Roto. So if you have a look at this, we've got the paintings here, but like it's not properly rotoed out. So that's when this guy comes in to make it look like it's behind these forests here. So let me show you what I did. Okay, so here we are in the Roto. So let me show you what I did first. So I'm just going to shut off all of this. Okay, so let's solve it. So I've got my blank footage here, and it's pretty straightforward. And what I did was I color keyed out some of the, I guess, orange tints here. So we got a bit of that. Just try to color key out as much as I could until like we got that, and desaturate it a little bit so that we can get rid of some of that red and add in some of that yellow back in. And I've got this left, so it's looking pretty good. So if I play it, it's doing its job. However, you can see that this is jiggling for some reason. And I haven't figured out a solution why it was doing. I think this, as it moves, the color changes. That's why, because of the light bounces and stuff like that off the leaves. So had to figure out a way to fix that. So I've got another method where I combined it with this black solid. So this black solid is pretty much a rough mask around these little edges here. And basically all it does is just took out some of that edges, and then I set the track matte to alpha matte inverted. So what that did was cut that out as well. And then I added a roughen edges mask as well, so that we can get some rough edges. We don't want it to look too smooth, that's why. So if we look at the difference here, that's what it's trying to achieve here. Okay. And then what is this layer? And didn't really do much help, but I still try to key out some as much as that unnecessary stuff as much as possible. And throughout as the clip plays, you just want to try and just trace the mask. So as you can see here, I've got a lot of keyframes here, and this is going to take quite a bit of time. So just do your best. It doesn't have to be super accurate, because it will be out of depth, and then your depth and your eye focus will be on the mountains up here. So as this plays, this will start to get out of focus. So it's still pretty important at the beginning, but once you get into like the mid-range time of the timeline, you can start to go a little easy on yourself with the rotoscoping. But yeah, that was pretty much it for the rotoscoping. It is pretty tiring, but you'll get there. Okay, so once you've done that, you can just composite that on top, and you get this guy. So now it is completely composite on top, and then you don't have to worry about the matte painting being slapped on top. Okay, let's look at my mist. So this is what I was talking about at the beginning. Our Trapco particular is using the world scale reference for its size. So as this goes down, the particle sizes will go down. So we don't want that. So we wanted to make sure that we get a nice, large, puffy white clouds. And at the same time, you want to keep your world scale as small as you can. So I just had to find that like balance. Okay, so if I go into my mist here, yep, so basically pretty straightforward setup. I set the particles to 0, and then 1 frame later, or maybe a few frames later. Oh no, sorry, at the start it spawned to 200 frames, and then a few frames later it went back down to 0. I kept it a box. All of this is 0 velocity, distributed along the x-axis and z depth, x and z depths, axis, sorry. And then the y, I just gave it a bit of y depth as well. I set the lifetime to 15, and I changed the particle type to sprite. And then my particle was this texture that I created. So if we go into the texture, you can see it's pretty hard to see. But basically, I've got this still image of a smoke element. and then I set the track matte to Luma matte. So basically, I am making this having an alpha channel using the white cloud. So basically, if I show you, if I change this to like a red solid, you can see what's happening here. I'm creating an alpha channel by getting rid of all the black, but also keeping that transparency of the cloud as well. So this will probably be all red now. But yeah. So we want a white like that. Okay. Jump back in here. Yeah, set it to sprite. The reason why I set it to sprite because as the clip plays, we get 3D depth with the clouds. However, if it's like a textured polygon, for instance, it's good, but like it wouldn't have that much depth into it, and it's like all puffy in the middle as well. So I chose sprite instead, just to get that distribution as well. Okay, size, I set it all the way up, because like I said before, the world scale is 30. Size random to 100%, opacity 25, opacity random 50%. I don't think I played much with the physics here. No, that was pretty much it for the trap code here. Okay, so once you've gotten that, you can go ahead and add a new color correction, which is this guy. I did a few corrections here, so added a curves adjustment. I just kind of brighten it up a bit. Set it a bit of a tint, about 15%. Then I added 3 separate glows. So I'll show you each glow. That. Okay. Added an unsharp mask to sharpen it a little bit. As you can see, I'll have to fix that later. And magic bullet looks. Which one did I use? Oh, 3-way grade head start. That's what I used, or what I found that best suited the shot here. And I just added some hue and saturation. So I think I saturated the yellows and the reds here for this shot. Added a vignette, straightforward, camera bulge, and camera lens blur. So at the start here, it is 8, and then if you hit T, so as this mask is, so I've got the mask here for the camera lens blur, and I'm just like moving it, as the clip plays, I'm moving it closer and closer to the trees so that we get out of focus here and more focus up here. Okay. That is it for that. What else was there? Okay, so let me show you this little guy. So here is my original shot, and I've got this freeze frame shot. So if I scroll to this timeline where it's about to start, you can see here that, actually let me show you from scratch. So if I duplicate it, and I cut it to about, let's start from the end frame here. I'm going to draw a mask on top of this. Okay, I want this area to be covered. Okay, and I hit F, further out, maybe like 20 pixels. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is move the layer. Okay, something like that. And then I can just like maybe adjust the mask here. Okay, so it's not pretty, but like it does the trick. All right, maybe find 25. Okay, And then what I did was I right click, time, freeze frame. Yeah, that's fine because the camera track's on. And then all I did was just animated the mask path. So maybe from here, go here, starts from there, and then move along. Just put it up here, like that. Like that, and just move along. And just start it on top like that. Something like that. So that's pretty much how I did it. I'm just going to close this window frame here. So if I just unsolo everything, that's what it looks like. And don't worry about it suddenly appearing because the roto is going to be straight on top of it. So just make sure it's underneath the map painting. Okay, and then that's my large smoke. Once you add all those steps up, you get something like this. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Yeah, just a lot of detail and a lot of like very, I guess, technique into this shot here. But hopefully it was straightforward. Hopefully it made sense. Please comment down below if you didn't understand what I was saying, especially with the world scale and the trap code particular particles. I'll do my best to explain it. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. My name's David. I hope you learned interesting techniques that you can use for your own creations. Please give a like if you like this video so people can find it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and be sure to hit that bell button to get the notifications. And comment down below if you have any questions. And I will see you in the next video.